Let us help you reach your peak in retirement. It's time for Retirement Elevated with Sean Lee.
Welcome into another edition of Retirement Elevated with Sean Lee, here to talk with me and you about investing, finance, and retirement on the podcast. Don't forget to reach out to him, let him know if you enjoy the content and you'd like to subscribe. You can do so at elevatemyretirement.com. That's elevatemyretirement.com. That is the main website for the team. Lots of good tools, tips, and resources. You can also check out the podcast, catch past episodes, future episodes, and also schedule some time to talk with the team if you're not already working with them. You can also call them at 855-507-3847. It's 855-507-3847. Sean, what's going on, buddy? How are you?
Nothing, man. Just freezing. It's cold out here.
Another day in paradise?
Jeez, yeah. It's going through a little cold snap.
A little chilly, huh?
Yeah, it's all good. We're
chilly.
heading south tomorrow for our first baseball tourney of the year. So.
Okay. All right. Well, good. Well, you know, it's you and I were chatting. You sent me this article to chat about a little bit. Kind of interesting about a gentleman who unretired and really wanted to talk about the biggest retirement challenge that nobody talks about. So I thought that'd be a good topic for a conversation. You and I were going through this a little bit. And, long story short, we can put a link in the show notes to the article if folks want to check it out. But really his biggest point was the challenge of retirement that people just don't often spend much time on. And that's the downturn, right? The downside, the downtime. Like, what am I doing? What do I want to do? And I know that people seem to fall in two categories, Sean. They either say, I'm so busy in retirement, I can't believe I ever had a job. Or they say, I'm bored to tears, right?
Oh, yeah. And we talk about this in our classes a lot. And the hardest transition in retirement usually isn't the financial one. Mm-hmm. Like if you're going to retire, you put time, energy, effort into the financial side of retirement.
That's our focus. Yeah,
because that's what everybody talks about. But what people don't realize is that when I'm working, the average American works 2,500 hours a year. Mm-hmm. When people ask us, they first meet us at parties or whatever, one of the first questions that's asked, well, what do you do? And so you start to tie in what you do with who you are. And that's a hard transition in a lot of cases.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
And the biggest transition for people is, well, what are you going to do with that 2,500 hours that you just got back?
Yeah.
And if you don't know, you're going to have a hard time in retirement.
Well, and this guy's story was, basically medically he had to retire a little earlier than he expected at 52, which is a little early. I get that. But by 67, he's like, what am I doing, right? So let's talk about some of the things. He did an in-depth survey of like 15,000 retirees over the age of 60 and was asking them basically one question: what is your single biggest challenge in retirement? And here's some of the answers. So let's you and I go through some of these and see what you experience as well in your practice. This is kind of a small selection, but like in the regret category, people saying stuff like, I miss doing the work that I love, right? Or I don't think retiring is for me. I just want to go back to teaching or whatever it was that they were doing. And then also that just, I feel lost, like I don't know what to do with all this time. Is that kind of what you see as well?
Yeah. If there's not a plan for how you're going to spend time, I mean, think about it. Like, people get into their profession. In a lot of cases, the profession that you retire from is usually one that you love. It's you're the teacher, you love making an impact on kids, or you're an engineer and you love creating and seeing projects through. And as you retire, even though there's excitement, that first year, 2, 3 years, there's part of you that in a lot of cases, it's like, man, I miss making that impact on those kids in the high school or in the elementary school or whatever it is. Or I miss creating and making an impact because maybe I worked for, Moog or Boeing or Hexcel or something. And now I'm creating and I'm making an impact on our society. Whatever it is, it's that miss of that impact. Oh man, I really miss that. And by taking some time off, in some cases, now you're refired. Like, oh, okay, now I can go out. I've got energy again because I'm not in the day-to-day, the grind of a day-to-day job all the time. And sometimes when you get in the day-to-day, you miss the big picture of why you really enjoy doing certain things.
I agree. And I think that's certainly something that people don't think about from that challenge of their time. And it's because when we're thinking about retirement, we're like, yeah, we're going to travel. It's all the big picture stuff, right? We're going to travel. We're going to take the grandkids to Disney World. So, but there's also that day-to-day stuff where you start to go, wow, there's a lot of time in the day. What am I going to do with it?
You can only take so many walks. You can only
cut the grass so many times.
Right, yeah,
right. Exactly.
And truth be told, if I was at home every day, my wife would be like, what are you doing?
Why
Get
are you
out of
here?
here.
What are you doing? Yeah, exactly. Well, that's a real thing too, right? Especially if one person's been home for a while or works from home or whatever. So that's a challenge as well. He talks a little bit about some of the health side. People say, I feel like my mind is slipping because I'm not doing something, right? I want to add value back to the world or even just to my own existence. My mom's going through that. She's 81. And she's not driving as much, and so she has days where it's like I'm fine not getting out as much. I think she's in that the slow-go years, if you will.
Right.
But she at the same time sometimes she'll struggle and go, I feel like I'm getting worse because I'm not doing more. Like mentally.
I'm not mentally engaging in
stimulated. Yeah.
In anything that's going to grow my mind.
Yeah, because she lives alone, right? Like many retirees do, unfortunately, when the loved one passes. So you've got that added element as well.
Right. And health is that's why health is one of the bigger components of retirement. Get out, walk, go to the gym, do the thing like play the crossword puzzles and the Wordles and do all those things that keep you mentally engaged. Let's face it, if you're retired, you have time to do all those things. It's just a matter of having some self-ownership of getting out and doing things.
Yeah, and I think that goes into the last one, which was identity, right? Kind of feeling like you've lost who you are when you're retired. And again, depending on how the retirement's going, you may feel like it was the job, or if it was a job where you did lose a spouse, it's like, who am I now without this or that type of thing?
That goes back to you go to dinner parties and you go to an event and and I hate that question. Oh, what do you do? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not an elevator speech kind of guy. Like, I get in, I work hard for the families we work with.
Right.
But I'm not like out touting, hey, look at us. We've got this financial planning firm. But that's very common in social settings. What do you do? Oh, tell me about your work.
Right.
And people get wrapped up and they tie that into their identity.
That's who they are. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm an engineer for so-and-so, or I'm a doctor, or I'm a nurse, or I take care of people. I teach kids, whatever that may be. But just because you do something doesn't mean that that's who you are. And unfortunately, it gets commingled in a lot of cases. And when you retire, then you lose some of who you are if you're tying in what you do to who you are.
Yeah, and we got to find a way to kind of do that stuff. So he had an interesting, and like I said, we're going to put put some links in here, or put the link into this article for folks to check it out. But he basically uses a Venn diagram. If you're not familiar with those are, you'll be able to see that on here. But he uses a Venn diagram, which he got from a Japanese concept, to talk about putting things in a category, right? So at the top, you've got what you love. At the bottom, what can you be paid for? On the far right, does the world need this? And at the far left, what you're good at. You make these circles, right? You make a perfect circle, and each circle draws you inward to ultimately what's your reason for being, right? And so it helps you kind of, focus this down a little bit. Like, so there's some good questions to ask yourself. What's an activity you love, right? Are you good at it? That's why many people, I think, start doing side hustles in retirement, right? They're like, all right, let me go do this thing I always wanted to do. I'm really good at woodworking, or I don't know, whatever it might be.
Right, or sculpting, or
crafts, whatever.
Yeah, and I actually went through this as I was
for yourself.
Yeah, just for fun as I was preparing. It's like, oh, what's an activity that you love? Well, I love coaching.
Right.
Are you good at it? Well, I think so. I mean, the kids love me. I coach a lot of advisors as well. Does the world need what we offer? Well, I think that there's a lot of crappy coaches out there, whether it's us helping advisors to make themselves better, us coaching our clients on how to mentally transition or financially transition to retirement, and then coaching kids. Like, that's one of my passions and I coach my kids in everything that I possibly can, because I love coaching. I love making an impact, and I love seeing, that the kids are growing from it. I've also seen a lot of crappy coaches out there, so I want to keep our kids away from that stuff.
Right.
And then, can you get paid for doing it? Well, we've made a career and we built a firm out of coaching our clients, right?
Yeah. So you have this, and that could be parlayed into life after your working career, really, like the coaching concept, right? You could parlay that into something as in your retirement years. And I think the same thing can apply to many people.
I mean, the Red Sox haven't called me yet to add me to their staff. So, I'm holding out for one of the big ticket jobs when it comes to coaching baseball. But until then, I'm going to settle for coaching our 10-year-old kids.
Right.
But then also during the day, I get to coach here at the office as well.
Well, but like think about it, like you could be 70, right, and you could be a quote unquote life coach, right, or you could be a swing coach, right, or whatever, right. So there's still things where you could turn passions into something post normal career, and I think that's the idea this guy had with this article and unretiring. And it's like, okay, you can still get in to do some things. The money is important, the X's and the O's are important, but you've got to figure out what you want to do with all the free time and what you want to do with your purpose. Because I don't think humans we're not designed to just sit. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that does us any good. It doesn't do our bodies good. We have to be in motion. Certainly doesn't do our brains good, right? So we have to find ways to do that. And the money's important because that helps fund that. But at the same time, if you don't have a passion that you're chasing, you could just be sitting there. You might have a whole lot of money. You might be Scrooge McDuck in it. But if you're not doing anything, are you happy? Are you fulfilled?
Right. And that's the big thing. And once you have clarity on what your financial side looks like, it opens up the doors of opportunity to go after passions and make an impact on the things that you care about and love.
Yeah, so we'll put a link to the article. You can check it out if you want to do your own Venn diagram and go from there. And if you're not sure about that Scrooge McDuck reference, just go look that up, and you'll be able to find. Gotta love some Scrooge McDuck. So again, we appreciate you hanging out with us. We just thought we'd do a little something different this week and just kind of look at this interesting article from a person who a lot of things that people just don't talk about, which is that free time, that identity aspect, that mental aspect of retirement, the gear shift of having truly nothing to do and finding something and finding purpose. So if you got some questions, need some help, obviously Sean and the team help you with the X's and the O's of the money, but they also help you with that because they have clients who live through it day in and day out as well. So if you got questions, got some concerns, need some help, reach out to them at elevatemyretirement.com. That's elevatemyretirement.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Google, Spotify, or whatever podcasting platform app you like to use. And we'll catch you next time here on the show. Thanks, Sean, for hanging out, buddy.
Hey, thanks, Ben. Appreciate it.
We'll see you next time here on the podcast, Retirement Elevated with Sean Lee.
Investment advisory services offered through Elevated Capital Advisors, LLC, and SEC Registered Investment Advisor.